Okay, here's the first sample problem, chapter 16, 16.1. What is A, the conjugate base of HNO3, B, the conjugate acid of O2 minus, and C, the conjugate base of HSO4 minus, and D, the conjugate acid of HCO3 minus? Okay, so let's start with A. So it's HNO3. Okay, if they're asking for the conjugate base, so if they're asking for the conjugate of something, it's the opposite of what they're asking for, meaning that if you're asking for the conjugate base, that means the substance you're looking at is an acid. Like an acid doesn't have a conjugate acid. An acid only has a conjugate base. Likewise, a base doesn't have a conjugate base, it only has a conjugate acid. So if they ask for the conjugate base of HNO3, it has to be an acid. So just look at it this way. Get rid of an H+. Donate an H+, and that'll be the conjugate base. That's all you got to do. So the one way to do this is just to break it up into two separate ions. Just take the H+ off, and you're left with NO3 minus. And so this would be the conjugate base. Okay, it's that simple. Let's try number B, or letter B. Letter B, they're telling you have oxide, and they want to have the conjugate acid. That means it's a base. And what does a base do? It accepts an H+. So accept an H+. So if you accept an H+, you get OH, right? OH, and then the charge goes from -2 to -1. And that would be the conjugate acid. Okay, let's try C. C says you want to find the conjugate base of HSO4 minus. Well, again, if they're asking for the conjugate base, that means this one's an acid, because an acid doesn't have a conjugate acid. An acid has a conjugate base. Okay, so if this is the acid, that means it donates an H+. So donate it. H+ and SO4. If you get rid of a plus, this becomes -2. Okay, so this would be the conjugate base. Okay, and then D, it says, what is the conjugate acid of HCO3 minus? Okay, so they want the conjugate acid. That means that this one is a base. Okay, so if it's a base, it gains an H+. So if you gain an H+, now you have two hydrogens, and then the charge is going to change from -1 to 0. So this would be the conjugate acid. Okay, there you go.